All right, Manitoba, welcome back to another episode, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a wonderful day as always. Real Fast Manitoba, you can follow me on Rumble, Facebook, YouTube. That's Manitoba Freethinker Podcast. Or if you want to follow me on X or TikTok, that's MB Freethinker. I'm also on all of the audio-only podcast platforms. So if you want that version, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, Google Podcasts, all that. But the big ask, Manitoba, would be go to Rumble. Like always, I'm fighting that inevitable Facebook ban. So if you want to watch me on Rumble, that would be the best. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. All right, Manitoba. If you were to list, I don't know, the top 5, 10, 15 issues that are affecting Manitoba, where would you rate discussing trans rights for kids? Like, how high does that rate on a scale for what our government should be focusing on? Like, where does that make the list? So if you're ever wondering why nothing gets done in Manitoba, I think I have the answer. Like, we could all agree Manitoba is facing some major issues, and they're only getting worse. We got homelessness, drug problems, crime everywhere throughout the province, our healthcare, a disaster. And what is Kinew's major focus this week, the last couple weeks? What is he thinking about? What is he focusing on? And he is our guy, our premier. He is the one to right the wrongs that the PCs have been doing for the last 7 years, as he says. His focus, trans rights for kids. Non-stop, that is all he is talking about. And he is just trying to score political points out of nothing. He is trying to take a quote that from the opposition leader that they made to a paper, the Globe and Mail, and he's trying to turn it into something hateful when it is at all not hateful at all, by no stretch of the imagination. Manitoba, he went on CBC earlier this week claiming that he would never get in between parents and kids. So what does he want to do now? He wants to use teachers as the wedge instead to force their ideology onto kids. That's what it is. This trans rights for kids it's child abuse. Let's just call it what it is. You know, tomato. Some people say trans rights. Some people say child abuse. Like, as a parent, like a lot of you guys are at home, I'm sure, want the government to stay out of the decision making and for the child rearing decisions. And we want the school to teach the basics, not their far left ideology. But instead, our premier is trying to be your kids' parents instead of governing the province. Like, I have a couple video clips I'm going to play for you guys. And I'm going to show you when the opposition tries to get an answer out of Kinew. I'm going to show you his response. And it should be an eye-opener. It should be pretty frustrating to all you guys at home because we're paying him to give us the facts. Take a listen.
The question is a simple one today, Honourable Speaker. How much money has the NDP government borrowed in their first 6 months?
The Honourable First Minister.
We're cleaning up a significant fiscal mess that was left by the member opposite and the others who sat at the cabinet table prior to the recent election. I wonder, though, if the member opposite is going to follow his recycled questions by going out into the hallway and making more divisive comments again today. Yeah. You know that yesterday, not only did he make divisive comments about pronouns, he also told the Canadian press, and I quote here, whether it's the topic of pronouns, whether it's some other topics in the education world, end quote, that's what he means when he makes these divisive comments. So I really would like him to clarify for the people of Manitoba, what are these other topics that he's speaking of? Beyond pronouns, what does he want to put on the table? in terms of dividing Manitobans. Surely he doesn't want to revisit conversations about LGBTQ kids. Surely he doesn't want to put health curricula in the conversation. So please, I would ask him to clarify his comments
Premier's
now.
time has expired.
For his benefit and the benefit of all members, I would like to table the following recent orders in Council authorizing borrowing to the tune of nearly $10 billion. December, $7 billion. Mid-January, $1.5 billion. Mid-January, $500 million. Mid-January, $250 million. And in February, $700 million. For context, the NDP's borrowing exceeds what was borrowed by past governments during pandemic years and Premier Salinger's floods. Why is the NDP hiding their borrowing of almost $10 billion from Manitobans?
The Honourable First Minister.
We had to refinance the debt that was accumulated under the PCs at record amounts. Again, everyone knows that the 2020 deficit and the other pandemic deficits were among the largest ever. Those roll over. We have to refinance that. We're cleaning up the fiscal mess that they left behind. That's right. But I wonder who will clean up the mess that is being caused by the member opposite's divisive commentary. He goes out into the hallway and he makes comments dividing Manitobans one against the other. And of course, he puts the issue of pronouns on the table, but then he also says that there are some other topics in the world of education that he wants to revisit. What are those topics that he wants to revisit? Hopefully it does not include LGBT issues that were hard fought for in this chamber and across the province. Hopefully he doesn't want to revisit health curricula. Hopefully he doesn't want to put birth control on the
Premier's
table.
time has expired.
Despite the Premier's fictional forecast, PC's left him with over $250 million surplus. Now, since the NDP have been in charge in October, they've borrowed nearly $10 billion. Interest, which will cost more than $500 million each and every year. Will the Premier stand up today and defend giving Manitobans a higher debt cost?
We're cleaning up the mess left by the PCs. That's right. I also want to clean up the mess caused by the PCs when they want to act like people who use different pronouns are something that our children need to be protected from. I am a parent with kids in the public school system. My colleague from Union Station, my colleague from Kirkfield Park are not people that my kids need to be protected from. In fact, if my boys grow up to show some small measure of the courage, integrity, and grace of my colleagues, I will die a happy man knowing that my work as a father was successful. We are going to continue calling this out each and every single day because the real thing that kids in Manitoba need to be protected from is hatred and bigotry. That's right.
Does that sound like someone who is interested in the topics at hand? Like, I'm a parent, and these issues are going to affect my kids when we're borrowing in the tunes of billions of dollars. And he doesn't want to answer to that at all. And Manitoba, this is only going to get worse because come April, when the carbon tax comes into effect, which he is the only premier in Canada that isn't asking Trudeau to halt it, the only premier, even premiers that are getting some benefit to Trudeau's favoritism with the heating, the Atlantic provinces, they're still asking for it to be halted. And where's Wab Kinew? Crickets. Across the board, everyone heats their home, but he wants to go on about the gas tax, the temporary gas tax break. Not everyone drives. First of all, everyone heats their home. And he could stand with every premier across Canada, but he chooses not to. So instead of answering a question, how much money are we borrowing, which is an issue that's going to affect all of our kids, not the 0.00001% of kids that are transgender. Where is he on the important issues? And if you guys want to know what this is all about, The opposition leader, Wayne Iasko, I could be butchering that name, just wants parents to be involved. He wants parental consent. I mean, kids need consent to get a tattoo. They can't have intercourse underage. They can't drink. They can't do drugs. But the NDP wants them to be able to change their name, change their pronoun, go by a different gender. How is that not a parental concern? But the NDP wants to let the school to be able to hide it from parents. From CBC News, Manitoba school kids should need parental consent to change pronouns, says interim PC leader. That's what Wob Kinew is going on and on and on and on about all day, yesterday as well. The interim leader of Manitoba's PC party says parents should provide informed consent to let their children change their preferred gender pronouns in school. Wayne Iasko told reporters after Tuesday question period that parents deserve to be notified of anything happening with their children in school. Obviously, how is this even an issue, Manitoba? They need permission to go on a school field trip. Quote, and if we're talking about pronouns, absolutely, I think parents and guardians definitely should be informed, end quote, Iwasko said. If we get parental consent when students are 14 to 18 to go on ski trips, so I don't think informing and consenting is too far from that, end quote. Obviously. In an interview with Globe and Mail published Tuesday, Iwasko said he wants parents to take part in what is happening to their children in classrooms. However, he did not answer questions about whether he wants to follow the footsteps of provinces, including Alberta, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick, that limit schools from teaching kids about gender and sexuality or use their preferred pronouns without parental consent. Manitoba, so if you want that, call your MLAs, email them, text them. This does not need to be in our school. Manitoba should definitely follow Alberta, Saskatchewan, and New Brunswick. Manitoba needs to put an exclamation mark on the issue of parental involvement, Iwasko told the newspaper, adding, sometimes the students' thoughts about how their parents or guardians are going to react about their LGBTQ plus identity were different than what the actual reality was, end quote. Which is obviously 100% true. It's not going to happen all the time, but 100% kids are going to put so much weight on this and they're going to think that maybe their parents do care and it's the end of the world. And half the time, I bet you way more than half the time, the parents aren't even going to care. I'll continue though. In Tuesday's question period, Manitoba Premier Wob Kinew said Iwasko's comments to the Globe and Mail are concerning and asked him to clarify, saying, quote, trans children are not safe with him in the political sphere. Iwasko did not speak about the article during question period. He later told reporters that he had not read it at that point. Kinew accused Iwasko of reviving rhetoric that the PCs hinted at the last election when the NDP swept to power after 7 years of Tory rule. Quote, the hate-filled campaign that the PCs ran in 2023 relied on transphobic sentiment, and the PC party leader of the day is hoping to put an exclamation mark on his remarks now, Kinew said during question period. Real fast, Manitoba, this is insane that they even print this. The hate-filled campaign that the PCs ran in 2023 relied on transphobic sentiment because they want parents involved. That's somehow transphobic sentiment. Either these people are not parents or they are horrible parents. Quote, this sort of division, I think, was rejected in the election by Manitobans, and it's disappointed that the message hasn't been received by the PC's interim leader, end quote. Once again, Manitoba, I'm going to stop real fast, and I'm going to show you some polls that were conducted through Canadians across the country, and the majority do not agree with Wob Kinew and the insane far left ideology about trans rights for kids. Mind-blowing. And it's not even about trans rights for kids. It's about keeping parents in the dark. In what world do you think the teacher should have more rights than parents? It is so frustrating. I'm going to continue, though. In the campaign leading up to last October's election, the PCs made parental rights in education part of their platform, but the promise was vaguely worded and focused on issues such as parental knowledge of the curriculum and presentations from outside groups. At the same time, some other provinces were coming up with specific policies on names and pronouns. Manitoba should have done this as well. Saskatchewan and New Brunswick brought in rules last year requiring consent for students 16 and under to change their names or pronouns at school. Lawyers for Your Pride, a Regina LGBTQ organization, argued Saskatchewan's policy violates charter rights and could cause teachers to out or misgender children. The Saskatchewan Party government invoked the notwithstanding clause to override sections of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms and Saskatchewan's Human Rights Code. Alberta announced changes more recently that included parental consent for students 15 and under who want to change their names or pronouns at schools. Students 16 and 17 would not need consent, but their parents must be notified. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Students 15 and under need parental consent. What is so wrong with that? 15 and under. Iwasco later said he takes issue with the Premier's interpretation of the article, but not the article itself. Obviously, because Kinew is just completely trying to politicize a non-issue, and he's trying to avoid the inevitable April budget and the carbon tax that is going to affect all Manitobans. It's going to hit our budget. It's going to hurt come April. They're going to do their best to avoid talking about anything to do with finances. I'll continue, though. If anyone out there